Hello, and welcome to the second English pronunciation problems for Spanish speakers video. The last video, this is what we covered. I'm not going to go over those again. If you want to take a look at them, go watch that video. This time, we're going to go over these topics. Word final nasals. These are sounds that we make that involve our nose. And we'll see why there's some unique problems when we try to do these in English. We're going to look at a trilled R, like that, well, like that, which is not how we do it in English. We'll talk about how to make an English R, a North American English R. We'll talk about the problem of adding e before word initial S. And we will take a look at word final consonant clusters. So we know what consonants are. Those are letters that and sounds that aren't vowels. English lets us put a lot of them together at the end of words, and this can create problems for Spanish speakers. We will look at the past tense ed and the different sounds that that can make. This is a problem for a lot of people from a lot of different language groups. Spanish speakers, I'm not going to say you're number one, but you're pretty close. So that's okay. We're here to learn. I'll explain how that works. And then I could have made an entire video just with this next topic. I could have probably made several videos with the next topic, but I didn't. We're going to take a look at some vowel problems that Spanish speakers have when they speak English. And we'll try to understand why that is, why Spanish speakers have those problems. Okay, let's get started. So first we're going to take a look at word final nasals. So word final just means these are sounds that come at the end of words. Nasals means we use our nose to make these sounds. So there are three nasal sounds that we use in English. As in Pam, n as in pan, and ing as in pang. Okay. Now, in many languages, it's possible to freely substitute these sounds. So if you can say one, you can also say another one, and it doesn't matter. It doesn't change the meaning of the word. In English, it often does change the meaning of the word, so we have to make sure that we say these sounds clearly. So let's start with So first of all, to make this sound, close your lips and use your voice. Now, your lips are closed. The air isn't coming out your mouth, so it must be coming out your nose, right? This is what that looks like. So we can see that the lips are closed, so there's no sound, no air coming out there, so the air must be coming out this way, okay? And we can see here, this is the symbol that we are using our voice. Now, this one is definitely the easiest one for Spanish speakers. I put it first because sometimes people don't completely believe me that there's sound coming out your nose, but there is. And again, this one we can see it. Your lips are closed, there's air coming out, it must be coming out your nose, okay? So now that we know that, let's move on. We'll take a look at the next one. Now, here's how you make this sound. You get ready to make a d sound, but do not let the air come out of your mouth. Instead, force the air up and out through your nose. Okay. The next one. Oh, sorry, we'll take a look at this. So again, we can see our lips are open, but the tongue is up above and behind the teeth. The alveolar ridge is what that's called. And again, we are using our voice. Okay? Now, this next one. If I was in charge of English, this would actually be a letter, but I'm not in charge of English, so it's not. But this symbol is the symbol that we use for the ing sound. So, get ready to make a g, but don't release the air. So get into a position for g, but then force the air out through your nose. So again, we're blocking the air, but we're blocking it back here. This time, again, we are using our voice, and the air is coming up and out this way. Okay? So that's how we make those three sounds. These two often feel similar. Maybe it's because an N often goes in front of a G, but they're actually quite different sounds. Okay, so is made with your tongue raised at the back of your mouth, where is made with the tip of your tongue raised at the front of your mouth. Okay, so they feel similar, but they're actually quite different. Okay, and these are ones that people often confuse as well. And again, if you practice making those two sounds one after the other, you will hear that the sound is actually quite different. Okay, let's take a look at some examples here. We're going to play a game of which word did I say? Okay, Pam. Yeah, that's the word I said, Pam. Okay. Next, which word did I say? Rang. Good. Okay, the one on the end with the ng. Next, which word did I say? Hen. Now, if you've been watching really closely, you may have noticed that even if you turn your sound off, you can tell which sound I'm making because my mouth is in quite different positions. Okay? Again, with the M sound, my lips are closed. Super easy. When I make an N sound, the front of my tongue is up. When I make a ng sound, it's pulled back up, and my mouth is arranged a little bit differently when I do that. Okay. Next one, hang. Could you tell just by looking at my mouth? That's the word that I said, hang. Next, all three. Sin. Sin. Yeah, that's the word that I said, the middle one. Next, tin. Tin. And that's the word that I said. Sung. Sung. Good. That's the one that I said. Next. Hum. Well, that's easy. Your lips were closed. Good job. Yes, they were. Hum. Next. Bing. Bing. Oh, I can see the front of your tongue, so it wasn't up. Must have been bing. Yes, it was. Good for you. Few more. Clan. There we go. Next. Same. Your lips are closed. This is too easy. Next. Ding. Ding. That was the one. Tine. Tine. Yeah, that's the one. That might be a new word. It is a word. When you have a fork, there's the part that you hold on, and then there's the sharp parts that go down into the food. Each one of those little parts is called a tine. It's not a word you need to probably know very often, but now you do. Okay, remember to listen for these different sounds at the ends of words. These sounds often make the difference between two different words. Okay, so they do matter. They're not interchangeable in English. Next, we're going to talk about something that is a big favorite of just about everybody who learns English, and that is the English R. Okay, now this is one of the closest IPA symbols for the sound, but you'll also see it written like this. And if we want to get into phonemics, we can actually make it more complicated. I don't want to make it more complicated, so I'm just going to use the name of the letter. I'm going to call it R. And again, this is the R that we say in North America, this sound. Okay. All right. Now, if you're wondering why this is so hard, very few languages use this sound. English is obviously one of them. Mandarin is another, which is a type of Chinese, a variety of Chinese. So those are the only two major languages that use this sound. So if you don't speak one of those two, this will be a new sound for you. Now, this is what I hear when I teach students from around the world. I hear this again and again and again, right? With the tongue flapping up and down like this, usually at the front, sometimes at the back. It depends on the language. It depends what people are saying. If it makes you feel any better, English people have a lot of trouble making that sound. So, like I said, you know, if that makes you feel better, you can do something that they can't do. Maybe that will give you some motivation when you are learning the English R sound. Okay, let's take a look. First of all, the English R, it can be formed a couple of different ways. The first way is what we call a retroflex approximate. Again, my job is not to turn you into a linguist, but if you want to look this up, now you can, because you know what it's called. Your tongue is in the middle position and you curl the tongue sharply back. And we can see this here, the tongue curled sharply back like this. Not only do I not do it this way, I have tried and tried. I don't think I can do it this way. This just doesn't seem to work for me. So the good news is there's another way that we can make R. And again, I have learned other languages. I'm not bad at making my mouth do new things, do crazy things. I don't think I have ever made an R sound properly using this method. I'll show you what I use and what most, according to what I read, what most other English speakers also use. We call this a bunch R. Bunch is when we kind of push things together. So your tongue is kind of pushed up and together, or a molar R. The molars are the big teeth towards the back. So in this picture, it kind of looks like it's the middle, but we have to remember that, you know, this is back into your throat. This is kind of the back of the tongue, that the teeth, the molars would be here, and that would probably be about the end of the teeth. So you push your tongue up and back, and the sides of your tongue touch the inside of the molars. Okay, so you bunch the tongue, you push it together, you touch the molars with the sides of the tongue, you round your lips somewhat. Okay, it's not as much as an ooh sound. The lip rounding, though, is more relaxed if the is at the end of the syllable. So if I say red, red, there's some rounding here with my lips. But if I say faster, faster, right, my lips are much more relaxed. Okay, so this is what I use. From what I read, this is what most English speakers use. If you're having trouble with it, I would start with this. I'm going to teach you the first way that I tried to teach this sound. My first year I was teaching abroad, when I was teaching in the Czech Republic, I told my students, okay, jako pes. Now, if you don't speak Czech, if you don't understand it, that's okay. That just means you don't speak Czech. That's fine. Jako pes just means like a dog. So this is what I told them, and this is what I'm going to tell you. If you can growl like a dog, you can make the English R. Please don't turn off the video. I promise I'm not crazy. If you can make that sound of a dog growling, then you can make an English R. The next problem we're going to look at is adding an sound before a s sound at the beginning of the word. So when s comes at the beginning of the word and is followed by another consonant, Spanish speakers often add a. So you can see there's a reason, or there's a specific time when we have this problem. So we might say this: I speak Spanish. So we can see that these words start with S, but then after that there is a consonant. In this case, it's the same one. And that's when this extra E, which is the problem, that's when that gets added. Sometimes it's not really that much of a problem. It's not correct, but we can understand. I speak Spanish. Okay, I might have to think about it for a minute, but I understand what you mean. However, sometimes we might hear this. I guess I should say he speaks a slang, right? So slang. So relaxed language, informal language. Well, this might be what people hear instead. Okay? He speaks a slang. Okay? So that a slang, my English ears are going to hear that as this a. And the effect that that has is that I'm waiting for you to finish your sentence. I'm waiting for you to say something like, he speaks a slang word. Okay? So you're trying to say it this way. He speaks slang. You're trying to say it as a noun. But when you add this this now, you've made this slang an adjective. So now I'm really confused because this noun is never going to come because that's not what you're trying to say. You're trying to say this sentence instead. So the point is, sometimes it doesn't really matter very much. I speak Spanish. Okay, it's a little bit not normal, but I understand you. But sometimes it can be really confusing. Okay, so it's important to try to solve this problem. So there's nothing fancy here about how we're going to solve this problem. To fix it, simply stretch out the S. Okay, so listen very carefully to yourself. Are you adding an extra before the S? Okay, I've got a screen here with several practice words. I will say them slowly so that you can repeat afterwards. If you get bored, you can skip ahead to the next part. What do you mean get bored? You're here to learn English. Let's practice. Okay, so I'm just going to read from left to right, top to bottom. So I'm going to start first with this column here. So after the S sound, I'm going to have a T sound. Okay? I encourage you to repeat after me. Stop. Stall. Steak. Steve. Okay? Next, when there's a W sound that comes afterwards, sweet. Swat. Sweat. Switch. Okay, now with a K sound. Sometimes it's a C and sometimes it's a K, but it's always a K sound. Score. Scam. Screw. Skate. Okay, now with an L, the L, slip. Slope. Slam. Slay. And followed by an M, so here we have one of our nasals. Smart. Smell. Small. Smile. Now we'll go to the next column. Sorry about that. Okay, so our next nasal. So N sound. Snore. Snob. Snake. Snow. Okay, and here we go to the end. The last column. Spot. Spar. Spoon. Speak. Okay. There will be a link in the description. There will be a link to my website where this video will be there. But if you look under the video, there will also be lots of different exercises. And one of them is a practice speaking exercise where you will use your microphone and you'll speak into the computer and the computer will tell you what it understands. So if you are adding an extra before the S, you will confuse the computer. So it's not as good as speaking to a real person, but computers are always honest. So maybe maybe it's even better than speaking to a real person. Computers don't care if they hurt your feelings. The next thing we're going to look at is word final consonant clusters. English allows groups or clusters of consonants at the end of words much more than a lot of other languages. Okay, so it's one thing that makes English different from many, many other languages. A word with dropped sounds, so sounds that we don't say is not being properly pronounced. So one of the ways that people deal with all of these consonants is they just don't say all of them. Well, that's not a good idea because you're changing what that word is. You might be changing to a different word, or you might be saying sounds that just aren't a word. Okay? Also, there is a lot of grammatical information at the end of English words, so you need to get this right. Okay, let's take a look. So here's an example problem. I watch a lot of TV. Well, that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. That's fine if that's what you meant. Maybe what you meant was, I watched a lot of TV. So this is an example. If that t sound gets dropped at the end, because it's hard to say, so I'm just not going to say it, you're not saying what you think you're saying. Okay, you're thinking in the past, but you're saying it in the present. Okay. Do you want to hold the baby? Oh my goodness, I don't even know what that means. It doesn't sound very good. Oh, do you want to hold the baby? Yes. Yes, I do. That sounds like a much better idea, and I would like to hold the baby. Yes, I like babies. So again, there's two consonants. We have to say both of them, or the word isn't clear. Next, the feel is very flat. That could mean a couple of things, but I'm really not sure what you're trying to say. Oh, the field. The field is very flat. Good, yeah, let's go play soccer or football. Okay, so let's take a look at some exercises. So watched. We'll talk more about this later, but for right now, just please trust me. The ED sounds like a T in this situation. Okay, so if I have this, watch Ted. Okay, Ted is a man's name. Watch Ted. So I'm going to separate the ED. I'm going to take that off. And I'm going to move my T over. Watch Ted becomes watched. And I just don't say the ED. And eventually that just drops off. Watched. Okay, and this is how I would spell it properly. Watched. I watched a lot of TV. Next one. Hold. I'm going to stretch that D out, put it in the next word. Hold down. Now that I can say, there's no problem with extra consonants there. I'm going to separate the O-W-N. I'm going to move the E out of the way. I'm going to bring the D back. Hold. Hold. Hold down becomes hold. Do you want to hold the baby? Feel. Same idea again. So feel down. I'm going to get rid of the own, and I'm going to bring the D over, field, and of course now I'm going to correct my spelling. Field. The field is very flat. By dropping just one sound at the end of one word, you can sometimes change the entire meaning of a sentence. So I know it's a bit of a pain, and it will take a little while for your ears to get used to it, but it really does matter. And once your ears start to hear it, then you can tell your mouth to make sure that it's making the proper sounds as well. Now let's take a look at something that lots of people who are learning English have trouble with, and I completely understand why. We have two letters, ED. I know what sound they make, and then when we put them together, they usually make a different sound. I had actually planned to make an entire video about this, and I may do that later, but since we're here, let's talk about this right now. So the ED can actually make three different sounds. T, D, and ud, which is what we expect it, the sound that we expect it to make. This is almost always the sound that Spanish speakers make when they see ED. The thing is, it's often not right. Okay, we'll see that in just a minute. So let's start just by looking at these two sounds. So T is voiceless. I'm not using my voice. D is voiced. I am using my voice. If you're not sure what I'm talking about when I say that, please go watch my video on consonants. Okay. That's all explained. So t and d are actually what we call minimal pairs. They're consonant pairs, and we can use them to make minimal pairs where the only difference between two words will be this one sound if I'm using my voice or not. Okay. All right, let's take a look at some ed words, some words that end in ed, and we'll figure out if I should make a t sound or if I should make a d sound. Grabbed, grabbed. Am I making a d sound or a t sound? Yeah, I'm making a d sound. And you know what? I'm not sure I made this really clear. When I say we need to see if it's voiced or voiceless, how do we decide? The last sounds that come before it are what tell us. Okay? So grabbed, B is voiced. So what comes after it is going to be d. That's voiced as well. Let's take a look at this next one. Call, call. I'll make the L sound. Am I using my voice? Yes, I am. So called. Okay, called. So I'm going to hear that it's a d sound. Let's go through these. We'll go a little bit faster. Looked, looked. Goes over there. Talked, talked. Yeah, that's a T sound. K sound and then a T sound. Opened, opened. We already know from earlier in the video that yes, I use my voice to make an N sound, so that's going to go over there. Listened, same letter, goes to the same place. Covered, covered. Yep, it's voiced. Washed, washed. That's a T sound. Good. Stopped, stopped. Yeah. And with a p and then a t sound, even native speakers, they don't have trouble saying it, but they sometimes don't always say it clearly. So stopped. There's a p. Waved, waved. Good. Past. It really sounds like a T, doesn't it? And in some cases, P-A-S-T, that would be the right way to spell it. P-A-S-T and P-A-S-S-E-D sound exactly the same, even though they are two different words. So past is, with two S's, is, he passed me the ball and I scored a goal. Cried, cried. Voiced. Asked. I made that really clear. I hope you got that one. Next. Attached. Attached. Good. Annoyed. Annoyed. Now, I'm using my voice, so I put that over there. Backed. Backed. Good. Now what am I going to do? I'm just about out of space here. Finished. Finished. Haha. We found a way. Okay, so you can see that a lot of very common words that we hear are going to have a t or a d sound at the end, not an ud sound. But what happens when the last sound of the word is t or d? Well, when the last sound is t or d, that's when we say the ud sound. Let's look at some examples. Wanted, needed, shouted, ended, lifted, decided, and one more, mended. Okay, so when the, well, I think, oh, not yet, waited. All right, now I'm done. So we'll take all three of these symbols. We'll make our very simple rule here. After a voiceless sound, we say t. After a voiced sound, we say d. And after a d or a t, we say ud. Okay, Okay, the next thing to look at. Th and th are the voiced and voiceless versions of the famous English TH sound. I'm sure this is your favorite. Spanish speakers often say d for th, and they often say t for th. Okay, so there is when you replace something, you keep the voiced or voiceless sound, but you make the wrong shape with your mouth. But, my friends, did you know, I have some good news. Did you know that Spanish speakers have a secret advantage in making these sounds over many other languages? Because you do. Watch this. Say this word. And I'm not going to say it because, as you know from the last video, I don't speak Spanish. But I want to show you something, even though you might not realize this. So I took this from the Spanish Dictionary website, and you can see that there's two different people there who say this. I'm not going to play that recording for you, but you know that in Latin America it's said a particular way, in Spain it's said a particular way, but in both of those, look at the phonetic spelling here. Both of them have that sound there. So you already have this sound in a word that you already say. Okay, so you already can make the th sound. Okay, here's proof. This is the sound in this, the, feather, brother, breathe, and bathe. Okay, well, what about the second one? Well, I got some good news and I got some bad news. Kind of depends which side of the ocean you are from. We see here that they are different. So you can see here that if you are from Spain, you also have the th sound in Spanish. Latin America, sorry. If you can speak with a Spanish accent, then you can do it. Spain, don't be like that. You're just gonna. Now see, you made Latin America upset. Latin America, don't let them bug you, okay? It's fine. Just don't, we can still all be friends, okay? So, this is the sound in these words: thin, thaw, athlete, pathway, fifth, and tooth. Okay, so if you're from Spain, you already make both of these sounds. You maybe just don't realize it. If you're from Latin America, you make one of them. If you can speak with a Spanish accent, then you can make both of them as well. Okay? All right. Oh boy. Let's take a look at English vowels. English and Spanish have the same number of vowels. So how hard can it be? Well, I'll tell you. But English has many more vowel sounds. So Spanish has 5 vowel phonemes, which can be put together in different ways. English has 20 to 25-ish, approximately. It kind of depends which linguist you're looking at, which reference you're looking at. 20 to 25 vowel phonemes, as well as many different combinations. Here's the good news. No variety of English uses all of those, so it kind of depends where you're learning English. But I think you see the point. English has many more vowel sounds than Spanish does. So just like we were talking about with nasals, and ng, in some languages, it doesn't matter which one you say at the end of the word, but in English it does. So in other words, English, our ears hear differences that people in other languages don't always hear because they're not important in other languages. It's the same idea here. English ears, as I say to my class, English ears hear differences that Spanish ears might not, because in Spanish, it doesn't matter, it's the same. In English, it's not. So many new sounds can and often do create a problem for Spanish speakers. We'll look at some important trouble areas, so we're going to look at some specific ones, but vowels should be studied all at the same time. This is not my opinion, this is based on research. If we focus, and this is kind of strange, but again, this is from research. If we focus just on a few vowels, we will actually have more trouble with the other vowels when we go back to them. So it's important, once again, that all vowels should be studied together, okay, not just a few. Now, I've just said that. We're only going to look at a few right now, but when you're studying, don't spend too much time focusing on just one or two vowels. So English has what we call both tense and lax vowels. Now, Spanish vowel, I'll explain a little bit what that means in a minute. Spanish vowels are somewhere in between English tense and lax vowels, which makes it hard for Spanish ears to hear the difference, okay? So an English tense vowel might be here, and an English lax vowel might be here. So with my English ears, yeah, that's a big difference. But this is why it can be difficult for Spanish speakers, is because Spanish vowels are normally kind of in the middle. So it's just a small difference here, and it's just a small difference here. Okay? So I'm not explaining this to help you feel better. I'm just explaining this is why Spanish speakers often have trouble with these things, with English vowels. Okay? Now, okay, let's talk about what tense and lax are. Well, even linguists have trouble defining tense and lax. I remember the exact phrase that one of my instructors used when I was in university. He says, tense and lax is notoriously difficult to define. So even people who study this their whole lives have trouble really explaining the difference between tense and lax in a way that somebody else would understand. It has to do with tongue position, where your tongue is, and how much of your muscles you are using in your tongue. Okay. When I was getting ready for this video, I went and did a little bit more research. I thought, oh, maybe they have a better way to explain this now. And so I actually went to my old university's website, and the advice there from the people who are teaching this now, and they're teaching linguists. This is not an ESL class. They said, just learn what the sound is and then just remember, is that tense or lax? So they still haven't figured out a good way to really explain this. Okay. Tense vowels typically are longer than lax vowels. And again, we'll see some examples in just a minute. But this is a rule that we can trust the most when all of the other letters, when all of the other sounds in the word are the same. So if we change the other letters, that can change things as well. Let's take a look at some examples. This often helps people figure things out. So here are some tense and lax vowel pairs that are troublesome for Spanish speakers. So we'll start on the left side, A. And I should say, actually, a lot of sites will write this vowel this way. They will write it with two symbols instead of just one. So looking at the symbol on the left, I say A for bait. And then the one on the right, I say E for bet. So bait, bet. Bait, bet. So if you're thinking to yourself, that's not so bad, I could get used to this. Well, I chose that one to go first for a reason. This is the easiest of the pairs to hear the difference because the tongue movement is the most pronounced, is the biggest difference. Okay. So the other ones will get more challenging. So let's take a look. What do I say? Would you like to test my new recipe? Did I say the word on the top or on the bottom? Would you like to test my new recipe? So the one on the bottom. All right, next. E and I. So a little bit more challenging. So beat and bit. Don't sleep by the pool. Don't sleep by the pool. Did I say the one on the top or on the bottom? Yeah, so the one on the top. Good. This, by the way, and you may or may not think it's funny, many people in Britain do, when they are trying to speak with a Spanish accent, they will sometimes say, I came to England on a sheep, because Spanish people will often mix these two vowels up. And of course, this is the wrong vowel sound, which gives us the wrong word. You did not come to England on a sheep. You came to England on a ship. And that's a ship. Okay? So, I know those people in Britain are so funny. All right, let's keep moving. So, next one, oo and Ooh and So on the left, pool, and on the right, pull. So, I read a book of the Bible, or I read a fashion magazine. I read look. I read look. Yep, and that's the one I said. Now you might be thinking, they're spelled differently. Yeah, they are, but that's just a coincidence. So you can't, as you know, you cannot trust English spelling. So in this case, that would help us, but normally it wouldn't. So here are a whole bunch of other words. I'm going to say these. You see if you can figure out which one I'm going to do. There are more practice and exercises like this at topshelfenglish.com, my website. It's all free. I will put a link again down at the bottom or in the description. When you go there, this video will be at the top, and then all of the exercises will be underneath in the same order that you see them in the video. Okay, so we're going to say all the words from left to right. First of all, bait, bet, beat, bit, boot, book. And we see there the spelling doesn't help us, does it? Okay, now I'm going to say a word, one of these words, and you try to figure out which one. Good luck. Beat. That's what I said. Boot. Good. Bet. Good. Bit. Good. Bait. Good. I'll slow down here and give you a little bit more time. Book. Good. Bait. You just did that one. Yes, I did. Boot. Beat. Oh, I'm sorry. I said I would slow down, didn't I? Sorry about that. Bet. Bait. Bit. Boot. Okay. Again, I'm not having fun with you. These really are easy for English speakers to hear the difference in these words. Practice is all it takes. Practice, practice, practice. Okay? Understand that what you say in Spanish, we need to kind of pull that apart and say them slightly differently. And then in English, those are two different vowel sounds. Let's take a look at another set of troublesome vowel sounds. So from left to right, I'm going to say, I'm going to say net, nat, nut, and not. Okay, which word do I say? Oh, wait, yes, we're going to make this much more difficult because I'm going to, well, you can see there's 4 lists there. I'm going to start at the top and then work my way down though. So the first words I'm going to say are going to be from the first line. Nut. Net. Not. Okay, now to the second line. But. Bet. bat. Now to the third line. Dawn. Good. Man's name. Den. Dan. Another man's name. Can be short for Daniel. Done. Good. And now to the bottom line. Pack. Peck. Peck. Did I get you? I said the same one twice. Pack. Puck. And pock. Good. All right. There is more practice available as well as exercises where you get to listen and where you get to speak at topshelfenglish.com. You're still here at the very end. That's fantastic because I have a special little treat for you. I have prepared a really fancy end screen. So I'm going to really make a fool of myself. So I really hope you enjoy watching it and it doesn't just make you think that I'm crazy.
Like and subscribe and notify. Like and subscribe and notify. Like and subscribe. Like and subscribe. Like and subscribe and notify.